There are two issues that I think actually are interrelated that we are going through right at the moment. One is there's a distortion, I think, between some of us that are having traumatic times in their life when they're young, and I think it makes a distortion in how we see ourselves. Two, we do not know our sexuality until puberty. It is creativity that we are all born with. The family role in trauma. This is about the parents. Your lack of understanding of a child unable to conform to your rigid view has done much damage. Did you see the child that was traumatized received help? Or did you worry how it would look to others? You helped to damage them, and God placed the child in your care. Isn't it about time you offered a bit of the unconditional love you mentioned before they were born? How much longer before their needs rise above your comfort? If you traumatize a child in order to toughen them up, you're a little better than a bully. Your actions will only lead them to fear you. Worse, if they have siblings, they will imitate your behavior. You might not have been the major trauma in the child's life, but you taught the child that's all they should expect from others. After all, if family can't treat them as human, why should they expect others to do better? A family role in the trauma. Siblings. Siblings should have compassion for those in their family. If they do not, I suggest maybe they were only imitating the parents' behavior. Still, siblings should care enough to do what a parent will not. Seeing terror in the child when you mention telling on them to parents. If you can't understand you've went too far, you are far worse than the parents. You are close to the age and should understand the feelings instilled by your parents' behavior. It is not sexuality we have at birth. What we have is creativity. Some just fall in the rigid guidelines of society. Sexuality only kicks in at puberty. Those that felt awkward and quiet, but have normal sexual responses, avoid going deeper. Those that are LGBTQ will only see this as confirmation of how different they are. That does not make it true. The only way to know is to talk to others. The fear of rejection makes the risk too great for a child. Trauma of any kind heightens the senses, especially when pain is involved. A heightened reminder of what you went through. Everything, including words spoken at that time, could cause a distortion. The words spoken could cause you to attempt to live up to what they said you are. Often it is not that far from the truth, except it has been twisted to the worst possible perception. Humility is taught from mistakes. However, you could learn the wrong lessons due to the distortions caused by words and actions of others during the trauma. The lessons is to think before you act. The distortion could make you act without thinking to live up to what others said you are. Until you challenge the false perception, you will only continue the damage they started. The feelings and your identity has not changed. The distortion only causes you to interpret your self-image to conform to what you were told. Once you realize that the distortion can be challenged, often what used to be acceptable will no longer be. Even though you engage in something, you no longer get the same payoff until you can't stand doing it anymore. Free will might be a gift, but it does have a cost. People can harm you using their free will, and that does not mean they succeed. You have free will. You can choose if what is done leaves you a victim or a survivor. First, challenge the distortion. Then decide what is your identity. This will strengthen you even when days are difficult. Consider, God is the God of souls. How you resolve difficulties could be what makes you valuable to the future. The language of perception is unique to each person. Your path could be to bridge a gap between two opposing sides, male and female. to act like an interpreter of languages between the masculine and feminine. Who you are will not be lost if you challenge the distorted perception imposed on you by others. You have not changed any more than when you came out of the closet. You're only letting yourself come out. Didn't you find it a relief to leave the closet? How much better if you free yourself of the shades that keep you in darkness from yourself? I understand this is not easy. It took me most of my life. All I ask, consider what was said to you at that moment or before the trauma happened. Then ask, how do you feel when you act today? Does the anxiety increase if you are not conforming to those words? Do you find the stress goes down when you stop challenging? Just like in the closet, we fear rejection. Wasn't the trauma suffered because of rejection? That's something that people tend to forget. No one hates themselves willingly. If you do, maybe it's because deep down, what you are doing might feel right, but it makes you feel betrayed. Once you recognize the distortion, your mind will challenge it without thinking. I know. I've been doing it for months now. Life lessons after trauma. The dysphoria. If you're trying to hide something you know, if you get what you want, you'll have to reveal. You're only destroying it before it started. You might think if they only got to know you, then it would work out great. Yet all you did was introduce them to an illusion. I am not talking about the surface appearance you are so worried about. I'm talking of the illusion you had to maintain who you are on the inside, and telling everyone what you identify as is fine. As someone you want intimacy with is trying to get to know more than the surface. You deny them that and make them doubt all they think they know. Like those you tell when you come out of the closet. They must now start to know you all over again. You've been rejected so much. However, treating those that still helps with anger for doing what your own parents wouldn't do seems unfair. Is it possible you're less angry at them than those that failed you? If it is, be fair. Lash out at the right people. You might spend some time remembering. If someone offers you a place to stay when your parents and family won't take you in, you're a guest. Be more tolerant of them. If you want to be alone, then leave. Do not punish all around you because you are mad at all the mistakes you've made or at others that failed you. Don't blame other people. It will not help, and soon people will not want to be around you either. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree. What I do have is life experiences and the lessons that I've learned over my life and how I've learned to cope with them. I do believe there is a distortion based upon words that are said. I don't believe that it necessarily has to be sexual abuse. It could just be words spoken and then some hormonal trauma that takes place afterwards that changes your entire view. And the words that were spoken before take on a much more sharper view than anything else, and it overshadows how you think of yourself. All I'm saying is give it a thought, because doing anything that is a permanent change for you, and if it is a distortion being caused by what these people did to you, you are allowing them one last chance to hurt you by your own actions. Deny them that one last gift.